Before listening to this audiobook, please consider to subscribe to help the channel grow and reach more people. How to hack your dopamine system. Table of contents. Chapter 1. What is dopamine? Chapter 2. What are the reasons of low dopamine? Chapter 3. What are the reasons of high dopamine? Chapter 4. How to balance your dopamine system. Chapter 5. The relationship between dopamine and addiction. Chapter 6. The effects of drugs on your dopamine system. Chapter 7. The effects of porn on your dopamine system. Chapter 8. What does delaying gratification do to your dopamine system? Chapter 9. What are the best delayed gratification activities? Chapter 1. What is dopamine? Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is responsible for transmitting signals between neurons in the brain. It is a chemical messenger that plays a crucial role in regulating movement, motivation, reward, and pleasure. Dopamine is produced in several areas of the brain, including the substantia nigra, the hypothalamus, and the ventral tegmental area. The release of dopamine in the brain is associated with feelings of pleasure and reward. This is why dopamine is often referred to as the feel-good neurotransmitter. When we engage in activities that are pleasurable or rewarding, such as eating food or engaging in sexual activity, dopamine is released in the brain. This reinforces our behavior and motivates us to seek out similar experiences in the future. However, dopamine also plays a role in regulating movement. In particular, dopamine is involved in controlling fine motor movements, such as those involved in handwriting or playing an instrument. When dopamine levels are low, this can lead to movement disorders such as Parkinson's disease. Dopamine also plays a role in regulating mood and motivation. Low levels of dopamine have been linked to depression and lack of motivation, while high levels of dopamine have been linked to mania and psychosis. There are several factors that can affect dopamine levels in the brain. For example, drugs such as cocaine and amphetamines increase dopamine levels by blocking the reuptake of dopamine into neurons. This leads to an accumulation of dopamine in the synapse, which can produce feelings of euphoria and increased energy. On the other hand, certain medications used to treat mental health conditions such as schizophrenia work by blocking dopamine receptors. This helps to reduce symptoms such as hallucinations and delusions. In conclusion, dopamine is a crucial neurotransmitter that plays a role in regulating movement, mood, motivation, reward, and pleasure. Imbalances in dopamine levels have been linked to a range of neurological and psychiatric conditions. Understanding how dopamine works in the brain may help researchers develop new treatments for these conditions. Chapter 2. What are the reasons of low dopamine? Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays a crucial role in our brain's reward and pleasure centers. It is responsible for regulating our mood, motivation, and movement. Low dopamine levels can lead to a variety of symptoms, including depression, anxiety, fatigue, lack of motivation, and difficulty concentrating. There are several potential causes of low dopamine levels. One common cause is chronic stress. When we experience stress over a prolonged period, our body releases cortisol, a hormone that can decrease dopamine levels. Additionally, chronic drug or alcohol abuse can also lead to low dopamine levels, as these substances can damage the brain's reward centers. Another reason for low dopamine levels is a lack of sleep. Sleep deprivation can affect the brain's ability to produce and release dopamine, leading to lower levels in the body. Additionally, certain medications can also interfere with dopamine production and release. For example, antipsychotic medications used to treat schizophrenia and other mental health conditions can block dopamine receptors in the brain, leading to lower levels of the neurotransmitter. Environmental factors such as diet and exercise can also affect dopamine levels. A diet high in sugar and processed foods can disrupt dopamine production and release in the brain, leading to lower levels over time. On the other hand, regular exercise has been shown to increase dopamine production in the brain, leading to higher levels over time. Another potential cause of low dopamine levels is Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's disease is a neurodegenerative disorder that affects the brain's ability to produce dopamine. As a result, individuals with Parkinson's disease often experience tremors, stiffness, and difficulty with movement. Genetics may also play a role in low dopamine levels. Some individuals may be born with genetic mutations that affect their brain's ability to produce or utilize dopamine effectively. If you suspect that you have low dopamine levels, it is essential to speak with a healthcare professional. Your doctor may recommend testing your dopamine levels through blood work or imaging tests. Additionally, they may suggest lifestyle changes such as exercise or stress-reducing techniques to help increase your dopamine levels naturally. In conclusion, low dopamine levels can have significant impacts on our mood, motivation, and overall well-being. Chronic stress, drug or alcohol abuse, Parkinson's disease, and genetics are all potential causes of low dopamine levels. If you suspect that you have low dopamine levels, it is essential to speak with a healthcare professional to determine the underlying cause and develop an appropriate treatment plan. Chapter 3. What are the reasons of high dopamine? Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays a crucial role in regulating mood, motivation, and reward. It is often referred to as the feel-good chemical because it is associated with feelings of pleasure and satisfaction. While dopamine is essential for normal brain function, having high levels of dopamine can lead to a range of health problems. In this article, we will explore the causes of why people have high dopamine and the potential consequences. One of the primary causes of high dopamine levels is drug abuse. Many drugs, including cocaine, amphetamines, and opioids, increase dopamine levels in the brain. These substances work by either blocking the reuptake of dopamine or by mimicking its effects. Over time, drug abuse can lead to a decrease in the number of dopamine receptors in the brain, making it more difficult for individuals to experience pleasure without the use of drugs. Another cause of high dopamine levels is certain medical conditions. For example, Parkinson's disease is characterized by a loss of dopamine-producing cells in the brain. As a result, individuals with Parkinson's may have higher levels of dopamine than those without the condition. Similarly, individuals with bipolar disorder may experience periods of elevated mood and increased energy due to high levels of dopamine. Genetics also play a role in determining an individual's baseline level of dopamine. Certain genetic variations have been linked to higher or lower levels of dopamine production or receptor sensitivity. For example, some individuals may have a genetic predisposition to addiction due to their increased sensitivity to the effects of dopamine. While having high levels of dopamine may seem desirable, It can have significant consequences for an individual's health and well-being. One potential consequence is addiction. When an individual experiences intense pleasure or reward from a particular activity or substance, their brain may begin to associate that activity or substance with pleasure and reward. Over time, this can lead to compulsive behavior and addiction. High levels of dopamine have also been linked to mental health disorders, such as schizophrenia and psychosis. In these conditions, individuals may experience hallucinations or delusions due to overactive dopaminergic pathways in the brain. In conclusion, while having high levels of dopamine may seem desirable at first glance, it can have significant consequences for an individual's health and well-being. Drug abuse, certain medical conditions, and genetics are all factors that can contribute to elevated levels of dopamine. It is important for individuals who suspect they may have high levels of dopamine to seek medical attention and explore treatment options. Chapter 4. How to balance your dopamine system. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays an important role in the brain's reward and pleasure centers. It is responsible for feelings of motivation, pleasure, and satisfaction. However, excessive dopamine levels can lead to addiction, anxiety, and other mental health issues. In this article, we will discuss how to lower your dopamine levels naturally. 1. Exercise regularly. Exercise is one of the most effective ways to lower dopamine levels. It releases endorphins, which are natural mood boosters that counteract the effects of dopamine. Regular exercise also helps reduce stress and anxiety levels, which can contribute to high dopamine levels. 2. Practice mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness meditation is a practice that involves focusing on the present moment without judgment. It has been shown to reduce stress and anxiety levels, which can help lower dopamine levels. Mindfulness meditation also helps increase gray matter in the brain, which can improve cognitive function and reduce the risk of mental health issues. 3. Avoid addictive substances. Certain substances like drugs, alcohol, and sugar can increase dopamine levels in the brain. Avoiding these substances or limiting their intake can help lower dopamine levels naturally. 4. Get enough sleep. Sleep deprivation can lead to an increase in dopamine levels in the brain. Getting enough sleep each night can help regulate dopamine levels and improve overall mental health. 5. Eat a balanced diet. Eating a balanced diet that includes plenty of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and lean proteins can help regulate dopamine levels in the brain. Foods like bananas, almonds, and avocados are also rich in nutrients that can help balance dopamine levels. 6. Seek professional help. If you are struggling with addiction or other mental health issues related to high dopamine levels, it is important to seek professional help. A mental health professional can provide guidance on how to manage your symptoms and develop healthy coping mechanisms. In conclusion, lowering your dopamine levels naturally requires a combination of lifestyle changes and professional support. By exercising regularly, practicing mindfulness meditation, avoiding addictive substances, getting enough sleep, eating a balanced diet, and seeking professional help when needed, you can regulate your dopamine levels and improve your overall mental health. Chapter 5. The relationship between dopamine and addiction. The neurotransmitter dopamine plays a crucial role in the development of addiction. Dopamine is a chemical messenger that is released in the brain when we experience pleasure, such as eating delicious food or engaging in enjoyable activities. It is also released when we use drugs, and this release of dopamine can lead to addiction. Addiction is a complex disorder that involves changes in the brain's reward system. The reward system is a network of brain regions that are involved in the experience of pleasure and motivation. When we engage in pleasurable activities, such as eating or having sex, the reward system is activated and dopamine is released. This release of dopamine reinforces the behavior, making us more likely to repeat it in the future. When we use drugs, however, the release of dopamine is much more intense than with natural rewards. This flood of dopamine can lead to changes in the brain's reward system over time. With repeated drug use, the brain becomes less sensitive to dopamine, and we need more and more of the drug to experience the same level of pleasure. This phenomenon is known as tolerance. As tolerance develops, addiction can set in. Addiction is characterized by compulsive drug use despite negative consequences. The brain's reward system becomes hijacked by drugs, and natural rewards no longer provide the same level of pleasure they once did. This leads to a cycle of drug-seeking behavior that can be difficult to break. Research has shown that dopamine plays a key role in this cycle of addiction. Studies have found that drugs that increase dopamine levels in the brain are more addictive than those that do not. For example, cocaine and methamphetamine both increase dopamine levels in the brain, while marijuana does not. One study published in the journal Nature Neuroscience found that rats that were genetically engineered to have fewer dopamine receptors were less likely to self-administer cocaine than normal rats. This suggests that dopamine receptors play a crucial role in addiction. Another study published in the journal Neuropsychopharmacology found that people with lower levels of dopamine D2 receptors were more likely to be addicted to drugs like cocaine and heroin. This suggests that differences in dopamine receptor levels may contribute to individual differences in susceptibility to addiction. While dopamine plays a key role in addiction, it is not the only factor involved. Addiction is a complex disorder that involves many different factors, including genetics, environment, and individual differences in personality and behavior. In conclusion, dopamine plays a crucial role in addiction by reinforcing drug-seeking behavior through its effects on the brain's reward system. Drugs that increase dopamine levels are more addictive than those that do not, and differences in dopamine receptor levels may contribute to individual differences in susceptibility to addiction. However, addiction is a complex disorder that involves many different factors beyond just dopamine. Chapter 6. The effects of drugs on your dopamine system. Drugs are substances that can alter the chemical balance in the brain and body. One of the most common effects of drugs is their impact on dopamine, a neurotransmitter that plays a crucial role in regulating mood, motivation, and pleasure. Dopamine is released in response to rewarding experiences such as food, sex, and social interaction. However, drugs can hijack this natural reward system and lead to an abnormal surge of dopamine, which can have both short-term and long-term consequences. Short-term effects of drugs on dopamine. When a person takes drugs, the chemicals in the substance bind to specific receptors in the brain that are responsible for releasing dopamine. This leads to a rapid increase in dopamine levels, which can produce feelings of euphoria, pleasure, and excitement. For example, cocaine blocks the reuptake of dopamine, leading to a buildup of dopamine in the synapses between neurons. This results in an intense rush of pleasure that can last for several minutes. Similarly, opioids such as heroin and morphine activate opioid receptors in the brain, which also leads to an increase in dopamine release. This produces a sense of relaxation and pain relief that can be highly addictive. Marijuana also affects dopamine levels by binding to cannabinoid receptors in the brain, which can alter mood and perception. Long-term effects of drugs on dopamine. While drugs may produce short-term feelings of pleasure and euphoria, they can also have long-term effects on dopamine levels. Repeated drug use can lead to changes in the brain's reward system, making it more difficult for a person to experience pleasure from natural rewards, such as food or social interaction. This is because drugs can damage or destroy dopamine-producing neurons in the brain. For example, methamphetamine is known to cause significant damage to dopamine neurons over time. This can lead to a decrease in overall dopamine levels and impairments in mood regulation and motivation. Similarly, chronic alcohol use has been linked to reduced dopamine receptor availability in the brain, which can contribute to addiction and depression. Chapter 7. The effects of porn on your dopamine system. Pornography has become increasingly accessible in the digital age, with a plethora of free and paid websites offering a wide range of explicit content. However, the impact of pornography on the human brain and its dopamine system is a topic that has received significant attention in recent years. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that plays a crucial role in the brain's reward and pleasure centers. When we experience something pleasurable, such as eating delicious food or having sex, our brain releases dopamine, which reinforces the behavior and motivates us to repeat it. However, excessive exposure to pornography can lead to changes in the dopamine system, which can have negative consequences on our mental health and well-being. Studies have shown that pornography use can lead to desensitization of the dopamine system, meaning that individuals require more intense or novel stimuli to experience the same level of pleasure. This can lead to a cycle of addiction, where individuals seek out more extreme or taboo forms of pornography to achieve the same level of arousal. Over time, this can lead to a decrease in overall life satisfaction and an increased risk of depression and anxiety. Furthermore, pornography use has been linked to changes in brain structure and function. A study conducted by researchers at the Max Planck Institute for Human Development found that individuals who regularly viewed pornography had reduced gray matter volume in areas of the brain associated with decision-making and impulse control. This suggests that excessive pornography use may impair an individual's ability to make rational decisions and control their impulses. Another study published in JAMA Psychiatry found that individuals who reported higher levels of problematic pornography use had lower connectivity between regions of the brain involved in cognitive control and decision-making. This suggests that excessive pornography use may impair an individual's ability to regulate their behavior and make informed decisions. In addition to these neurological effects, pornography use has also been linked to negative social and relational outcomes. A study published in the Journal of Sex Research found that individuals who reported higher levels of pornography use were more likely to report relationship dissatisfaction and infidelity. This suggests that excessive pornography use may have a negative impact on intimate relationships. Overall, it is clear that excessive pornography use can have negative consequences on an individual's mental health and well-being. While it is important to note that not all individuals who view pornography will experience these negative effects, it is crucial for individuals to be aware of the potential risks associated with excessive use. Chapter 8. What does delaying gratification do to your dopamine system? Delayed gratification refers to the ability to resist the temptation of an immediate reward in favor of a larger, more valuable reward that is available in the future. This ability has been linked to a number of positive outcomes, such as improved academic achievement, better mental health, and increased success in personal and professional pursuits. However, the neurological mechanisms that underlie delayed gratification are not fully understood. One theory suggests that delayed gratification may be related to changes in the brain's dopamine system. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is involved in reward processing and motivation. When we experience something pleasurable or rewarding, such as eating a delicious meal or receiving praise for a job well done, our brains release dopamine. This release of dopamine reinforces the behavior that led to the reward and motivates us to seek out similar rewards in the future. Research has shown that individuals who are better able to delay gratification have different patterns of dopamine activity compared to those who struggle with self-control. Specifically, individuals who are better at delaying gratification tend to have lower levels of dopamine activity in response to immediate rewards, but higher levels of dopamine activity in response to delayed rewards. This pattern of dopamine activity suggests that individuals who are better at delaying gratification are able to regulate their impulses by reducing the salience of immediate rewards and increasing the value of delayed rewards. In other words, they are able to override their immediate desires in favor of long-term goals. However, it is important to note that delayed gratification is not solely determined by differences in dopamine activity. Other factors, such as cognitive control and emotional regulation, also play a role in our ability to resist temptation and delay gratification. In addition to its role in delayed gratification, dopamine is also implicated in a number of other behaviors and conditions. For example, dopamine dysregulation has been linked to addiction, depression, and ADHD. Overall, while research on the relationship between delayed gratification and dopamine activity is still ongoing, it appears that there may be a link between these two phenomena. Understanding this link could have important implications for developing interventions aimed at improving self-control and promoting healthy decision-making. Chapter 9. What are the best delayed gratification activities? Delayed gratification refers to the ability to resist the temptation of immediate rewards and instead opt for a better outcome in the long term. It is a crucial aspect of self-control, discipline, and success in life. Engaging in delayed gratification activities can help build this skill, leading to better decision-making, improved mental health, and increased productivity. In this article, we will explore some of the best delayed gratification activities. 1. Exercise. Regular physical activity is one of the best ways to practice delayed gratification. It requires discipline and consistency to maintain a workout routine, but the long-term benefits are significant. Exercise has been shown to improve mood, reduce stress, boost energy levels, and lower the risk of chronic diseases such as diabetes and heart disease. Moreover, it can help build mental toughness and resilience by pushing past physical limitations. 2. Learning a new skill. Learning a new skill requires time, effort, and patience. Whether it's playing an instrument or learning a new language, the process of acquiring knowledge and expertise is rewarding in itself. Additionally, it can lead to personal growth, career advancement, and social connections. The satisfaction of mastering a new skill after months or years of practice is a powerful motivator that reinforces delayed gratification. 3. Saving money. Saving money is another excellent way to practice delayed gratification. It requires sacrificing short-term pleasures for long-term financial security. Setting financial goals and creating a budget can help prioritize spending and avoid impulsive purchases. Moreover, saving money can lead to greater financial freedom, such as paying off debt or investing in future opportunities. 4. Meditation. Meditation is a mindfulness practice that involves focusing on the present moment without judgment or distraction. It requires patience and discipline to develop this skill over time. However, the benefits of meditation are numerous, including reduced stress and anxiety, improved focus and concentration, and increased self-awareness. 5. Writing. Writing is an activity that requires creativity and discipline. Whether it's journaling or writing fiction, the process of putting thoughts into words can be therapeutic and rewarding. Moreover, writing can lead to personal growth by exploring emotions and experiences in depth. In conclusion, engaging in delayed gratification activities can have numerous benefits for our mental health and overall well-being. By practicing self-control and discipline in these activities, we can develop our ability to resist temptation and make better decisions for our future selves.